Mikuro, we are HRM Axosu Agelogbagan. Agbawi the first, the Galodo Hosu. Hosu is attached to the name of any monarchy in the Ajai culture. And that's how you know that person is the monarch of that particular area. So Hakbonu, which is Porto Novo, they have the Hakbonu Hosu. So for those that didn't know what we quite meant by that, that's what we mean. This is video 2 of a series of we don't know how many videos it's going to be, dealing with certain aspects of the African culture and the so-called practicing of African traditions that many people had not thought about. In the first video, we talked about the Inco script because we are the ones that introduced Inco to areas outside of Mande-speaking people. And we are the first and still the only people in the Western Hemisphere in the African tradition that are using an African script. Of course, that script was created by a Mande person in 1949 by the name of Suleiman Kante. Well, it was revealed in that Gregorian year. In this particular video, and we spoke about, the improper use of Inco, meaning people using Inco to write non-African scripts and whatnot. That is anathema to African culture and in particular nation building and sovereignty. So we wanted to say that. In this video, we want to ask you what time it is for you. What is the time? Is it 1:30? Is it 6? What day of the week is it for you? What is the name of your month? We at Gunlodo, we have an ancient calendar. We've adapted it to our new geographical and historical circumstances. The calendar itself, just by name, is called Azanli Land in the Ajai foreign language. The way we view time and look at time as Africans is critical to any kind of potential or actual sovereignty or liberation, period. We feel like, once again, we keep saying this type of thing. Africans feel like they can take this one little part of Africa and all of a sudden be sovereign because they're saying it. I put on African clothing, then I'm sovereign. And, I put on African clothing for one day out of the week during my temple meeting or whatever. I'm sovereign. I do a couple of prayers in the Yoruba language or whatnot. Then we're good. No. Sovereignty includes every aspect of everyday people life type of thing. Language, dress, food. But in this particular case, we're talking about time, which is hardly ever talked about. We finally got people to talk a little bit about food and wearing African clothing, which we call Mawufe Avo, Mawufe Nu Avo in the foreign language. Finally got them talking a little bit more about that type of thing. You would think that would have been automatic, as long as how many years a lot of these people been in these traditions. But the concept of time, which is intricately connected to having a calendar of your own, we've never seen any videos about that from Isheshe and Vodun people and Akan people. Now, we've seen people in the Tamaray, the Kemetic tradition, talk about, Kemetic calendar and a 10-day week and, 30-day month and whatnot, and adding the intercalary days on at the end of the year, but they don't even know how to pronounce those names. So it's very questionable, if they're pronouncing things right. And some of those calendars also were influenced by the Greeks. Not all of them. So it's according to which one you're looking at. But we're talking about indigenous calendars from and time reckoning from our perspective as Africans, as West Africans. We never see that, you know. So the question you should ask yourself, you know, is it Wednesday or is it Jozangbe? You know, when does your year start? When is the first of the year for you? Is it January 1st, like most people in African tradition, or is it some other time that's more relevant to the tradition that you're practicing, or that you say you're practicing? You should be living the tradition more so than practicing it. And on top of that, if you're pointing to a year that starts at another time outside of January 1st, what's the name of that day? For instance, a few people in the Sheshe tradition, they will acknowledge somewhere in July, something like that, the beginning of and they call it the Ifa year. But what is that day called? Let's say it's July the 12th, you know. So when somebody asks you, what day does your new year start? Do you say July 12th, but our African name our Yoruba name is, for that day is XYZ, and it has nothing to do with July or nothing to do with 12th in the Gregorian Julian sense of it? Because we've talked to people, they say, yeah, the Ifa year starts in July, whatever, something like that. But then they don't have a name for that day that's indigenous to the calendar that was not influenced by the European. So for instance, the Fon people, they have currently in their disorganization and confusion, they have a 12-month calendar based directly on the European calendar, except for they have phone names for them. That's confusion. So they kind of rename the months, and they name the months based on what's going on. If they're sowing millet at that time, if it's the dry season coming in or going out, you know, they'll name the month after that, but it directly corresponds with the European month. It doesn't correspond with Aja, ancient time, that from tens of thousands of years ago. What year is it for you? When speaking of that, is it 2018, or is it 6259 like it is for us? What are the names of your month, and what do they correspond to? Once again, are they, even though different in meaning from the European names, are they basically your 19th century and latter 18th century adaptation to European calendar? And if that's it, then it looks like, to the outside world that doesn't know any better, like, you know, a lot of other people, we know better. It looks like you didn't have a calendar before that. You didn't have a calendar. You didn't know it was 12 months in a year, 360 some odd days before the European came. And so what the European did was give you the calendar, and then you just put some Aja names onto it. You know, going back to the names of, you know, what day of the week it is for you. Not only what day of the week, but what time of day did it start? Is your day from midnight, 12 midnight in the European calendar to 12 midnight or 11:59 or whatnot? The 24-hour day is a 24-hour day. That's cyclical. That's Africans been absorbing that forever. But what time of the day does your day start? For instance, amongst the Whne, the Ewe, and the Akan, and the Akan actually started this tradition. People have Kradim, which is day names. They don't call it that in the other traditions, but in the Akan they call it Kradim. Krada. And Kradim actually means your soul name. So, Kweku, for instance, is a male child born on a which what corresponds to a European Wednesday, which is Jozangbe in our tradition. 7-day week in our tradition is not a response to the European tradition, because we already had that. When the Europeans when they met Nana Kweku, the first Europeans in what is now Ghana, when they met Nana Kweku or Kwaku, who was a Fante man, Nana meaning he was a chief, he already had that name, and that he had not met a European before that. They'd never met Europeans before that. So Kwaku, meaning being born, quote unquote, born on a Wednesday, but it's really born on Zozakbe. Or Kweku died in the Akan tradition. But what time of the day were you born? So if you were born before sunrise, you're actually born not on that Zozakbe, not on that Wednesday that you may think that you may be carrying the wrong name. And you're carrying the wrong name because you're still observing European time. Even if you have an African name, you are observing European time, therefore you have the wrong African name. You're really a Kwabana, which is born on what corresponds to the European Tuesday, instead of a Kwaku or a Kweku. Real simple. So what time did the sun rise? Because our calendars are based on sunrise to 1 minute before sunrise. And that's a day for us. Then that next sunrise, another day starts. It doesn't start at midnight. What time is it for you? That is what we have. In our calendar, we have a sacred week within the calendar. We have the regular mundane week, which is, 7 days, which many African cultures had that before. But we have also a 9-day sacred week called Ba'azan. But because of so much misuse of information, and we've experienced it personally, where people have misused the information that the monarchy of Ganlodo, ourselves as head of Ganlodo, Quilombo Restoration and Healing, they're misusing our information now. And we've been guarded against that for a while. We've been guarding ourselves for, this is nothing new. So we won't speak on certain things like the Ba'azan, its sacredness, its various things that you do on those days. But just know that we do have our sacred week. And that is the sacred week, that 9-day cycle. But unless you know what that really is, you can't really, well, I guess people still can make up something off of that. They can make up something off anything we've been teaching, but it won't be correct. So for those that are really serious about culture and about learning how to view time from an African perspective and how we do it in relation to the oldest tradition, which is Vodun, they will be in contact with us. Those are the people where we share the deeper aspects with. We have names for our months that we won't necessarily reveal right here. We've mentioned a name or two in a couple of posts, a few posts here and there, but nobody knows the order and the meaning of the names. But our months are based on when the solstice starts. We have a term for that. We won't share that right now because of recent misuse of our information. These terminologies are, you can find them in the Phone Bay Primer, which is the phone language book we wrote. And we feel like when people invest in something like that, they're more serious. They tend to be more serious. So what is this, how do you view what the European calls the zodiac? Do you have a word for it in your culture? If you're African, you do. But if you are not really studying the depths of your culture, you're not going to know that. we have a word for that which they call the zodiac. In Whne, we'll go ahead and share this with you. We call it Togodo. There's a meaning behind it, but the point is, what time is it for you? What age are you in? The Europeans say you're in the age of Aquarius. We say you're in the age of Uga-Azi, which is the fourth of the four great cycles that we go through based on the sacred Odinani tradition of the Igbo people. Once again, we can go deeper into that with people that are willing to go deeper with their re-Africanization and willing to build with the monarchy of Ganlodo, or if they're like-minded and they some kind of way don't build with the monarchy of Ganlodo, we can work with that also. We need allies in other spaces. We realize that everybody's not going to be with Ganlodo, but what would be surprising is that if you're of the like mind of Ganlodo and you don't want to support this movement because there's not another movement like this one going on, So, once again, what year is it? For us, it's 6259. Our calendar on this side of things started in what you would call the year 4241 BCE, and we call that year one, Whne AX. AX, if you may see it on some of our posts, means year of the clan, and that is when many of the totems and many of the clans were permanently established. And that's where you get a lot of the identities that you have today from that time, which was 6,259 years ago. Are you an Aquarius, or were you born under some African sign? What was that African sign? And we're not talking, let's not bring up Tamaray and all that, because all of that was regurgitated by Europeans. And when they did it, you had people with good intentions from the African community to try to buck that and counter that, because the Yovo, the European, was trying to take our culture. But in that, they've gotten themselves and so many other people caught up with the Tamaray thing. They never study the depths of their direct West African heritage. They don't. Most of them can't tell you a word in Yoruba, Igbo, or Aja, Whne, for the word calendar, for the word firmament, for the word quote unquote zodiac. They can't. They can't tell you the name of an African month that has not been influenced by the European presence. They can't. It has gotten so bad that in Benin, the word they often use for an African person is mewi. Me means like person. We means black. There is no way in ancient Vodun land they would call themselves black people. And they ignore the fact of the Polifa and other sacred teachings like Ganhume Han and whatnot, Wlangan. They ignore the fact that Mawufe is mentioned. The Ewe people mention Fe Tome. So you see the Fe there. Of course, the Yoruba say Ife. Now, this is not Yoruba land, Ife. This is a land where all of them were at one time. It didn't belong to one particular people. It didn't belong to the Yoruba. But it's so popular because amongst the Yoruba, because the Yoruba are the most numerous people. And they tend to be the most arrogant out of the three people we named. So therefore, it looks like the Ife, the term Ife, comes from the Yoruba, when in fact there were many people living in an area with that Fe at the end. Mawufe means land of Mawu, land of the creator. Fe Tome, the monarchy of Fe, but not the Ife that we know. So, that being said, we see how the internal rot and how things went down even in Benin has caused them to start referring to African people as Mewi. Makes no sense. But then when you ask them the term for Africa, they'll say Africa. So let's be clear. The term Africa was put on African people by foreigners. However, it was a term, interestingly enough, that came from a particular tribal nation that ended up becoming extinct, and we believe the Romans did that. They were in Northeast Africa. They were African people. They didn't look like no Arabs or nothing like that. And this was when the Romans first encountered the area that is now called Africa, which we call Whne. So they named the area after them, Afrik. And so that's why you got a lot of Roman explorers and whatnot. They'll be named Afrikaners. And Afrikaners means someone who has come and done something in this particular exotic land. That's all it is. Now, even though Afrik comes from a Mawufenu or African people, we did not come up with that term. Whereas with the Ajafon people, they consciously used the term Mawufe long before the European came. So we use the term Africa for you all to understand what we're talking about, Africa, Afrikan. But we really want to get away from that term and use our indigenous Aja term of Mawufe or whatever other indigenous terms we have. We want to use that. So in closing, we want to say, we started this by posing certain questions. What time is it? What day of the week is it for you? But we want to go further, and we're not criticizing. We're just speaking the truth from the ancestral, Besu, the divine law of the ancestors. Kulito Besu, Besu Kulito. Do you have a culture when you don't have your own calendar? Indians do. Japanese do. All these other people around the world, they do. But African people, the original people, are not using their own calendars. And what's also doubly sad about that is that they have forgotten that they even had a calendar. And so they're using European calendars or reactionary calendars, whereas, they just given these European months African names, Yoruba names, Aja names, Akan names, or whatnot. And this is not good, because what is the clue that gives the telltale that you are reacting, that this came from a reacting type of thing. And now some people may hear this, and we know our people are addicted to made up stuff. So some people may try to take this, what we're about to say, and then try to readjust what they're doing. But as of now, this is what you're doing. And it will be exposed for anybody that hears this and look dead at what you're doing right now until you have time to try to play some trick game or whatever and change it up. And this is what we're going to say. A good way you know that these calendars, even if they have African names, are reactions to the European imposition of their Gregorian and Julian calendars, is on what day they start. So you see a list of the phone months, but all up they start on January 1st. Start on January 1st. National Vodun Day, International Vodun Day. They say it's on January 10th. We've never heard an Aja name for that day. And they could say, well, people don't speak Aja. Well, people don't speak, a lot of people don't speak Hindi outside of the Indians, but they make sure that they express the names of their holy days in their language. So that's the talk. When you hear people say that, and when you hear people say, well, you can pray to a deity in any language you want, that's the people that are either, well, they're lazy or they've accepted defeat, a defeat that they don't even have to accept, because these languages are not even dead. The language of the Meta Neter, as they call it, that's dead, but Yoruba is not dead. Whne is not dead. So that's a good way to tell. So anybody watching this video want to know how to see some stuff that's made up or whatnot, look at the day that they begin their month. Now, many people that's doing this that are hell bent on doing the wrong thing, they may want to, they probably will keep the names of the month and then try to change the day that it starts on. And that's where Ganlodo comes in. That's where the maroon mentality comes in. If you're a maroon, if you are a true nationalist, you're able to see directly through that. You're able to see when somebody's sitting up and talking about, they're supposed to be teaching you about Orisha, right? Orisha, amongst the Yoruba people. But every deity that they talk about is a Khan. Just give an example. Or Igbo. Then if you have, you don't have to really be a maroon. No, let's take that back. Those with that use their Ori, their inner divinity, will be able to see straight through that. And usually those people tend to think like maroons anyway, so that's why we said maroon. So many will go for the made up stuff. Sadly, a lot of them deep down know that something ain't right about it. But this video is about what time is it? What time is it for you? If your day starts at sunrise, then what time is it for you when it is 3:40 in the Gregorian calendar? So that's something to think about, especially when we got a lot of people carrying the wrong day name based on them still observing European time. So anybody that's watching this video that is on our mailing list at restorationhealing.com, Quilombo Restoration and Healing is the name of the website. They are free to contact us about more information about, nation building and heading towards sovereignty based on our real culture, if they choose to. You have to be on our mailing list to get our to contact us to get further information. One of our chiefs will speak with you on a certain extended basis, and this will be for everybody to see whose character is what. We are Maroon Monarchy. Everybody doesn't know where we're at. That is by design. Just like we don't teach certain things, in detail. That's by design. So for those that are for real, you can contact us. You can join our mailing list. Check out the blog and the other articles. We have publications there. Quilombo restorationhealing.com. Well, we wanted to say Quilombo. That's why we got a little tongue tied there at the end. Quilombo in the Congo tradition means encampment, but it's an encampment that is secluded away from the abnormalities of society. So that you create a Quilombo when things are out of whack, and things are very, very out of whack amongst New African people and African people in general around the world. So that is one reason that we have Quilombo in the name of our website. Restoration, healing, restoring from all of the junk that's been fed and believed by African people. Healing, same concept. But a Quilombo is at the beginning of that title. And Quilombo is to let you know that We are at war when it's time for war. We're at peace when it's time for peace. We are about not only expelling the external enemy, but also expelling the internal enemy. And we, from our study of history and culture and spirituality, we see that if it would have been more of an internal expelling of the enemy, getting rid of the internal rot amongst our own people, we're talking about hundreds of years back, then we wouldn't be in this position that we're in now. And the work of Ganlodo, our monarchy, and other Quilombos that may come along, wouldn't be as hard. But hey, this is where we at. So, once again, we are Agelogbagan, Agbovi the First. We hope that you've gotten something from this video that's very valuable, and that your concept of time will change, and you will orient you and your family towards that way. This is video 2 of a series of, we don't know how many will be, about the proper view of an African worldview. Odipa.